I've heard some breaking news that the case that Samantha Markle filed against her half-sister Meghan for defamation has been dismissed, and it's not really shocking because the arguments were always iffy at best. Now, Meghan Markle escaped having to pay her sister money, but Samantha Markle may have to pay for the legal fees that her sister has had thanks to Samantha filing the case. Needless to say, Samantha doesn't have this kind of money, and filing a case against Meghan was always a pretty risky idea. So Meghan Markle is going to claim that this is a win, and her supporters are going to claim that she's been vindicated, but neither of these claims is actually true. Maybe Samantha did not have a legal case, but in the court of public opinion, Samantha, who herself is not a very sympathetic person, did demonstrate that her sister was dishonest in her comments and in the information that she wrote out for Scooby-Doo in that stupid book Finding Freedom. And of course, this only feeds into the overwhelmingly negative opinion of Meghan. Once again, a lawsuit win for Meghan is not a real victory. Overshadowing the dismissal of the case, though, is the release of tax information submitted by Archewell. Now, we know a little bit more tonight about the finances of Archewell, and it is some pretty fascinating reading. What we found out is that most of Archewell's money was donated by two donors only. So one is around $10 million and the other donated around $3 million. The public contributed less than $5,000. Harry and Meghan declared that they worked for Archewell 1 hour per week, so that would be 52 hours per year. And considering that a typical work week is around 40 hours, this is pretty shocking. It's also pretty interesting considering the impact report that they published earlier this year. As with everything with the gruesome twosome, we can just scratch the surface a little bit, and the truth is not as they portrayed it. Service might be universal, but integrity sure isn't, and it has been obvious for quite some time now that Meghan and Harry are clearly lacking in that department. So the biggest donation that Archewell made was $300,000 for Meghan's World Central Kitchen, and then there was the donation made to the NAACP for which Harry and Meghan got an award. That was also listed. Out of over $13 million in income, Archewell, as previously stated, used only $3 million to actually give back to charities, and they're keeping the rest. But let's be kind, if you're only working in 1 hour per week, it's probably very difficult to actually disperse those funds to people who need it. I mean, that would take a lot longer than 1 hour per week. Pretty easy to forgive people at this time for being a bit cynical. After all, Archewell got an hour a week, but a civil lawsuit in the High Court that didn't require even Lord Harry's presence was given more time in the space of 4 days than Archewell got in a whole year. So it looks like not even a life of service is able to compete with the chance to be portrayed once again as a victim. So to sum things up, it looks like the worldwide privacy tour is continuing on while the opinion of these two continues to plummet, thanks to the hollow victory of that suit dismissal, the release of Archewell's finances, and also Harry trying to portray himself as a victim in the High Court once again. Now, to tell you the truth, I was always a little bit skeptical about Samantha's case. They did preemptively smear her in Finding Freedom in order to discredit her before she said anything, and of course, that was very nasty of Meghan. But Samantha is a less clever version of her half-sister, I'm afraid to say, and Thomas Jr. and Thomas Sr., we can say the same about them. It looks like the crazy genes are very evident in this family. They vacillate between bullying and trying to get everybody to feel sorry for them. I'm really curious about who donated that $10 million. I wonder if they're happy with what Meghan and Harry did with the money. There can't be many people out there who have that kind of money to just spend willy-nilly, and of those that do, there can't be too many that have more money than they do sense. In fact, I think Meghan and Harry are going to struggle to get a repeat of that donation. In other news, it looks like Harry has finally found an almost full-time job for himself, filing lawsuits against the media, especially British press. He needs to stay away, though, from the alcohol and the illegal drugs so that he can keep his story straight. Then again, I guess it's never really bothered him before about contradicting himself over and over again and telling obvious lies. I mean, he's been doing that basically his entire life and gotten away with it, so why should he change now? But I think eventually he is going to meet his match and it just won't work anymore. So Harry's gone from professional victim to professional litigant. And as the preliminary hearings in the group action against the Daily Mail conclude today, there will be a little break lasting a few days while Mr. Justice Nicklin determines whether it should proceed to trial. But it looks like only 3 days after the coronation, we can expect to see Harry smirk at the phone hacking trial against Mirror Group newspapers. It will be beginning May 9th, and it's expected to last 4 to 6 weeks. This is yet another group action case for which Harry is a face. So the case is various claimants versus MGN, and it will be heard by Mr. Justice Fan Court. Harry's case against A&L for defamation under Mr. Justice Nicklin has no trial date set just yet. He's also got his outstanding challenge to the Home Office over Ravic's decision and supposed lack of transparency in their decision-making process. So when exactly is he going to find time to get in a joint or two? Now, obviously, as soon as stories came out that contained information that the complainant knew to be private, they would be well aware of it. So they are limited to suing for publication within 6 years, and the publication element of claims against MGN was dismissed. But what will be examined at that trial is the extent to which complainants knew how their information had been unlawfully gotten, when, by whom, and who was paying for it to be done, and also whether or not they could have reasonably exercised due diligence to find out sooner. And this is also going to be a feature of the A&L case when it finally comes to trial. Now, this week, all the complainants in the A&L case relied on being made aware of the activities of Gavin Burrows in 2021 to bring their cases, so they are within the 6-year limitation. But that's only if they couldn't reasonably have applied due diligence to find out sooner. How diligent is Harry exactly? Well, it looks like Harry's current vendetta against the press has been going on at least since Meghan entered his life, so less than 6 years. But his hatred for the media has been there a long time. It doesn't seem likely that he wouldn't have known who the predators were, even if he wasn't able to mess with them. And of course, Harry has just thrown Camilla to the wolves, blaming her for spoon-feeding the media negative stories. And if that's true, that obviates the need for Burrows' activities. So I guess it's not just a case of misdirection from Camilla, or else Harry wouldn't even have a case. And he does seem to be aware that his family covered up the fact that he was a victim of phone hacking, but I don't know when he became aware of that. I mean, is Harry really so dumb that he never suspected it? Or is it just too convenient to have been willfully misled to avoid the statute of limitations, I wonder? It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. The news of the world was wound up in July of 2011. So how long exactly has the royal family supposedly been keeping Harry in the dark, and why did they do that? Did they just see him as a loose cannon who couldn't handle that information? Or did Harry just not want to know? See, I think what Harry is trying to do is he's getting ready to try to weasel his way out of MGN's and later A&L's defense that the claim is outside of the statute of limitations, and he'll do that by trying to claim that the royal family was in cahoots with the media, and they intentionally kept him in the dark. And therefore he would gain a legal advantage, but Harry does not have any right whatsoever to be blaming his family for anything ever again. I hope that the barrister working for MGN gives Harry a very hard time on the witness stand, and I hope that the king can send a witness statement saying that the family discussed phone hacking, and that Harry was just too busy playing video games to attend the meeting, or maybe he was too hungover, or maybe he